wanted to make 2019 different than other years. I knew that if I wasn't going to be intentional about my time, I would never get to see these places that I dreamt about. I set my sights on the national parks because 3 years ago I visited my first national park, Zion, and I fell in love. I made a New Year's resolution to quit smoking cigarettes, run my first half marathon, and visited at least 3 national parks. By the end of 2019, I'd accomplished all my goals and then some. This is my story of how I visited 14 national parks and ran 2 half marathons over the last year. For our first trip, we decided to start in Southern California and work our way to the Grand Canyon for Anna's birthday. We plan to see 5 national parks on this trip: Channel Islands, Joshua Tree, Sequoia, Death Valley, and the Grand Canyon. Although we planned extensively, the trip was filled with happy accidents and many misadventures. Our ferry ride got canceled to the Channel Islands because of the weather, but we made the best of it in sunny Palm Springs. The next day, we went to our first national park, which was Joshua Tree, located about 2 hours east of Los Angeles. We didn't know what to expect from this sunny, sandy desert, but we really enjoyed climbing on the strange rock formations and walking amongst the crazy Joshua trees. Next, we headed to Lone Pine, the gateway to Mount Whitney, the tallest mountain in the lower 48 states. Although we were right next to Sequoia National Park, we were unable to get there because there's no road that enters the park from the east. Our next stop was Death Valley National Park. Just a short hour-and-a-half drive from Lone Pine, Death Valley is the largest national park in the lower 48 states and required a lot of driving.
How are you gonna get down?
But that didn't stop us from seeing the desert waterfalls, Badwater Basin, the lowest point in North America, and hike on some beautiful trails. We made a pit stop in Las Vegas on our way to the Grand Canyon. It was fun to drive down the strip and see all the lights and hotels you see on TV. We finally made it to the Grand Canyon and we were in for a treat. You really can't put into the words or pictures the immensity of the canyon. You just have to go there for yourself. We hiked a couple miles into the canyon on the Kebab, we just called it the Kielbasa Trail. The sunset over the canyon sure was to die for. Our next trip didn't come until May, and we were going to hit Yosemite National Park for my birthday. We made plans to hit 5 national parks again, as we only got 3 on our first trip. We were going to go to the Channel Islands, Pinnacles, Sequoia, Kings Canyon, and Yosemite. This time we caught the ferry to the Channel Islands, and May was the perfect time to go. The wildflowers were breathtaking, but we almost didn't make it back.
We're gonna miss the boat!
Pinnacles Park was kind of a surprise for us. The hiking trails were top-notch and the views from the top of the Pinnacles were amazing. We even got to see a Pinnacles condor. Next up was Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. We had heard about the sequoia trees before, but when I saw one I couldn't help but run up and put my arms around it. These are the largest trees on Earth and some of the oldest living things on Earth. This was definitely worth the stop. The Generals Highway connects Sequoia and Kings Canyon parks. This was without a doubt one of the most beautiful roads I've ever been on. The road winds down into Kings Canyon where the granite peaks tower over you like massive skyscrapers. Next we made the 2-hour drive from Kings Canyon to Yosemite National Park. Yosemite has always been on the top of my list to visit and we made it just in time for my birthday. Yosemite really is the perfect park. The scenic views to the massive waterfalls and the giant sequoias, this park has something for everyone. About the same time I finished my first half marathon in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. My time was 1 hour 54 minutes. I had been training for the race since the beginning of the year and it was a big accomplishment for me. In June we decided to take a weekend trip out to Glacier National Park in Montana. The Going to the Sun Road had just opened and we loved hiking and seeing all the wildlife in this park. Our next little trip was to Indiana Dunes and Mammoth Cave National Parks. Indiana Dunes is only a couple hours from my house and we really got lucky with beautiful sunny weather that day. We took a guided tour of Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky and were blown away by its over 400 miles of underground caves, making it the longest known cave system in the world. I changed jobs in late August, and this gave me an extra 2 weeks to visit more parks. I chose to road trip out to Colorado to visit a friend and drive from there to the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee for a second half marathon. The first park we went to in Colorado was Rocky Mountain. The mountains here reminded me of California, and I set my sights on climbing the tallest mountain in the park, Long's Peak. It took around 14 hours up and down, but I made it. The Great Sand Dunes gave us our first experience of dunes camping. We backpacked in, and and was blown away by how quiet, dark, and beautiful the dunes really were. The stars at night were spectacular. Next on the road trip was the Great Smoky Mountains. The mountains are quite a bit smaller than the Rockies, but no less beautiful. I ran my second race here and finished in just over 2 hours. That's about it. 14 national parks, 2 half marathons, a job change, a move across the state. It sure was an action-packed, adventurous year, filled with family, friends, and lots of laughs. I learned that you need to be intentional about the things you want to do and accomplish, and most importantly, to be Brian. I hope 2020 is just as crazy as 2019. See you on the trail.